features bagels with freshly sliced Nova. Don't miss out our thick challah French toast. For lunch, grab a booth and enjoy one of our oversized salads or our freshly cut hot deli sandwiches. We're open 7 days a week, where the coffee is always hot and freshly brewed.
Broadcasting from the basement of La Penta, this is WICR.
It's your lucky day to be baptized in the Greek Orthodox Church.
Hi, I'm Nia Vardalos, and you're listening to WICR. Want to hear it in my radio voice? Hi, I'm Nia Vardalos, and you're listening to WICR.
Hello?
Yes, we're back.
Hello, and welcome back to Tea Time with Abby and Kate. We just had on Dr. Bridget Cooper, who talked to us about her books and to go buy them on Amazon. And now we have the news to get to. Now, I only have one news story today, but that's because this is something that has blown up all over the place. The Panama Papers. And the reason that they're called the Panama Papers is because they are all tied to a bank that is located in Panama. So the Panama Papers are 11.5 million documents, or 2.6 terabytes of information that was leaked to the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, the ICIJ, who then passed them along to dozens of other news outlets along the world, 3 of which were in the United States. Now, these are really abstract numbers. 11.5 million documents sounds like a lot, and 2.6 terabytes sounds like a lot too. But to kind of put this into perspective, one normal-sized computer holds 1 terabyte of information, and that's filling it up to the brim, completely out of storage space. This would be 2.5 plus computers full of information. It took them nearly a year to get through. It is a massive amount of information and documents. So what the report was just released very recently on everything that is going on, and information is still coming out because there's just so much of it. There's a great visual on The Guardian's page. The Guardian was one of the newspapers that got the information sent to them. And the visual shows a giant background with a bunch of yellow boxes on it. And the largest box is the documents that Edward Snowden released in 2013, and that was 260 gigabytes. And it's probably hard for me to describe this, but it is at least 4 times bigger than that. So if you have a computer, go on, check out this visual, because it throws things into perspective, and it shows you just how much information came out of these documents. So they were leaked to the ICIJ by an anonymous source, and like I said, it's the largest leak of information ever, many times the size of what Edward Snowden leaked. The documents show wealthy, politically powerful individuals, as well as multinational corporations using tax havens to pay lower, fewer, or no taxes. So basically what they've been doing is they've been taking their money and their center of where they pay the taxes to and placing it in places that they are not, but have lower tax rates or none at all. And it's less money for them to pay. This is for the companies. The companies are using the banking firm called Mossack Fonseca. I probably didn't say that right, but they did that. And Mossack Fonseca is located in Panama, and it's been distributing the money of different organizations from mostly across Europe and a lot of people into Asia too. And putting it in places like the British Virgin Islands, Uganda, and various other poorer countries that are in places like Africa and the Caribbean. The documents hold 100. It also shows that 143 politicians, along with their families, friends, and close associates, were listed in the documents. Among those were 12 world leaders, including Vladimir Putin, president of Russia, And the former Prime Minister of Iceland, I'm going to butcher this name because I cannot read Icelandic, Sigmundur Davio Gunnlaugsson.
That sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah,
so.
it works. He stepped down on Tuesday after thousands of protesters were calling for his resignation. And there are a few other people, one in South America who stepped down, who was part of an antitrust corporation within the an anti-corruption group within the government. So, bit of conflicting ideas there. All of the articles that I used as sources, including The Guardian, whom the documents were given to directly by the ICIJ, the New York Times, and CNN, all said that putting the money in offshore banks and companies is not necessarily illegal, but it can make money laundering and tax evasion more, much easier to accomplish, which is why a lot of richer people put their money in different places so that they don't have to pay as many taxes and they can keep that money and seem like they have less than they do. Reported on the ICIJ website, and only there, so not on The Guardian, New York Times, or CNN, or any of the other places that I looked, said that the companies were using these offshore funds to send money to governments that were using that money to drop explosives or other weapons on civilians and using it to hurt different members of their own communities, as well as money that was used within drug trade and was made from drug trade. So these accusations were not corroborated by any other sources, but investigations are being held by various governments, including the U.S. government, to figure out what was going on in the I don't actually know how to pronounce this name. The Mossack Fonseca, I think that's right. What was going on, what they were doing, if they were doing anything wrong, and if the people were using the money wrongly. There are legitimate purposes for using offshore structures as business models. The business is based in countries where the government is corrupt, or there's a great thread of what they called raids used on these accounts. So they will use the accounts in other countries to protect their money and be in a place that's more stable. It can also be used by wealthy families to protect their estates and their assets. Most of the names mentioned in the document, while they had American addresses, looking at passport photos that were in those 11.5 million documents leads people to believe that there were not that any American citizens within those documents. And this doesn't necessarily mean that Americans are less likely to have shell accounts and things like that, because the New York Times pointed out that this is probably because it's easy to create these kind of accounts for money laundering and tax evasion under U.S. economic law. So they said that Americans don't really need to go to hide their wealth in Panama. Like I said, the international community is conducting investigations to figure out when and where illegal actions were conducted, as well as what Mossack Fonseca actually had their hand in themselves. So this is a pretty thick thing that it's pretty dense, and there's a lot of information here. There's still lots of information that is coming out. People have been spent a year sifting through these papers, and still not all of the information has been able to come out of it. All of this information is on The Guardian, The Times, on the ICIJ website. It's pretty much the big story right now, and we'll have to see what else comes out of it, because a leak of this magnitude it's never been seen before. And obviously these leaks have been becoming easier with international media and computers and things like that, but we'll have to see what this means for the future in terms of leaks, government files, and what it means for the international community with all of these different funds and offshore accounts being created.
Well, that sounds very interesting. I had no idea that this was going on. I live in a bubble and had no clue what this was until you informed me about about 5 minutes before we went on today.
Yeah.
I just don't think a lot of people would actually like pick up something and read a story this dense if, you know, but if it's better when somebody like you talk about it, because then a lot of people are getting aware of what's going on.
Mm-hmm. I eat this stuff up. This is what I live for. I love things like this when journalists are able to go in there and uncover all of this stuff that people are doing, able to sort through it and like uncover the corruption in the world. Sorry, I just got on a little soapbox there.
That's okay. So when we come back, you ready to talk about Dancing with the Stars?
Yes, let's go to a much lighter topic.
Oh, Dancing with the Stars in sports, and there's a lot to talk about, especially with the Jets.
And Connecticut has something to be excited about.
Yes, they do. So we'll get to that.
We'll get to that
when we come back.
Yes.
So we'll get to that when we come back. We're super excited for all of you guys to be listening today. And we're just getting the music ready for you guys to listen to.